people.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Clutchdown Podcast. This is Season 4, Episode 1. You are back with Reese and Gavin after our random hiatus, which... Shall we explain our random hiatus, or just...
Is there an explanation for it? I thought you just lost the prediction league last year and threw everything out the window.
Basically, there was technically no result to the predictions in the end because we never did an episode talking about it. So we pulled our ideas together and decided to completely sack off the predictions from last year. That was the conversations we've been having recently.
I don't think it was. I think I won.
Gavin did win. Yes, yeah, you did in the end.
I don't much in life. Don't take this from me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you want to discuss anything? Is there anything you want to talk about?
No, I just won that, and that's it.
There you go. Well, yeah, we are back, and now we're visually here. We are. You can see both of us on the screen. We're testing out a new way of doing things, which is actually a video podcast rather than just an audio podcast.
We haven't invented it, have we? It's been
done.
Yeah.
We were the first. We were outside the other day taking photos under the big black hood with the massive flash, and now we've moved to video. We started with a Rolodex, and now we're here. No, we thought we'd do something a bit different. Like this episode is very much a kind of return, but also a test at the same time. I mean, currently I would usually be sort of staring into space or just sort of doing anything random, but I'm staring very ominously into a camera lens, which usually I'm telling other people to do, and it's kind of freaking me out. Just there's a void, and Gavin's in there somewhere.
Yeah. That's the thing, though, isn't it? Because it's like, I know we're not even going on the topic we're going to talk about, but it's weird. We're used to it. The more you do this sort of thing, you get used to it. But it is.
Well, we spent like 3 hours trying to get it all set up and had issues and all that. But we've got issues in general, so it was just sort of business as usual. But anyway, let's chat a bit about some NFL stuff. So last time we did an episode, it was actually pre-Super Bowl. Obviously, Kansas City Chiefs get their third Super Bowl in the last few years after what a lot of people thought would be a down year for them. 49ers couldn't do it in the end. It went to an incredible overtime finish with the Chiefs getting a passing touchdown to Rashee Rice, who's been in some trouble the last couple of months. Ever since that, it's kind of been on a going downhill from there. But obviously after that, since then, draft happened. Big moves in the draft, big things happening, some surprises, one surprise in particular, which I think a lot of people will recognise and agree with. But we thought we'd have a little chat about the draft and rather than going through all the picks and having an episode that's 3 hours long, we're going to do the top 5. And then when we're back again next week for another episode, we've sorted out any further teething issues in terms of video. We'll chat a bit more about the draft or something else. I don't fucking know anymore. We're just going to go with it.
We've just done 2 hours talking about the setup.
Yeah.
Next week we won't have to do that.
Which we will be releasing as a separate episode, which is just 2 hours of us discussing camera terms and
settings,
lighting and
setting up a Lumix and a Sony to Riverside software.
Riverside, shout out to Riverside, which is our unofficial sponsor because we've moved from clean feeds to a video related software.
Riverside will be really pleased to know that all their bandwidth is now being chewed up by us.
Yes, exactly. No, very much so. But draft. Enough rivers. Enough talk of rivers. Let's talk about draft.
Drafts, baby.
Draft and stuff. So obviously, Bears had the number 1 pick this year.
They did.
Probably the most Probably the most predictable pick of the draft. Yeah, unsurprising. I was about to say unpredictable, and I thought, hold on a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
The thing is, now obviously we're going to let you, as we're always with our podcast, you know way more than I do, so I'm just here for the levity. But the media desperately
sex appeal, just raw sex appeal.
That's in my Zeke shirt, by the way.
Your Zeke shirt. Who's back? Zeke's back. Right. We're back. Zeke's back.
The media every year try to do the thing where they hype up who's going to be picked first, who's going to be picked second. You know, obviously last year was a big sort of back and forth, wasn't it? This year they gave up really quickly.
Yeah.
It was so obvious so early on.
It was that classic thing of like, okay, well, the headline is everyone knows Caleb Williams is going to get get picked. The odds were there the whole time. We knew it was going to happen, and then you had some people going and like media outlets trying to get any kind of alternate headline. They'd be like, oh, actually, Jaden Daniels did incredible at his pro day, and now he's the one that's come to the forefront and all this. And there was like, no. We know what's going on. But yeah, Caleb Williams to the Bears would pick one of the draft. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it was very obvious. But see, what I was going to ask you was, what were your thoughts on that?
Oh, okay. So that was a very politician response. No, Andrew.
I was going to ask you. Let's face it. You're the numbers guy, right? So so what is it? This is the question I was going to ask. It wasn't a case of why was Caleb Williams picked first. Is why was Caleb Williams so obvious as a number one pick?
Is that I think each year
compare it to last year, where it was a sort of a toss up.
Yeah, between Stroud and Young.
Between Stroud and Young, it was right to the wire. It was who's going to go first. This year, it wasn't even a debate. Why?
Yeah, I think. Last year with Stroud and Young, Young was the out and out top talent in terms of passing, decision making, everything that you want in a quarterback. The only qualm with him was his height, and we spoke about that before in the podcast. CJ Stroud, again, incredibly talented, almost up to the level as Bryce Young, but I think if you look to their film, a lot of people would say that CJ Stroud was just the slightly not as natural passer, that kind of prospect type thing. You know, the usual things that go when it comes to analysis pre-draft. And the knock of why Bryce Young wasn't just the out-and-out overall number one prospect and why there was contention constantly was because of the issues with his height and because he's just, he's 5'10" or 5'11", so for a quarterback that's short for the league. So that was the kind of back and forth. Then you go on to this year, and I think that you don't have those height issues with Caleb Williams. I think he's 6'2". He's definitely over 6 foot. It is much more that kind of typical quarterback height that you want to go for, even if it's at the kind of lower level or whatnot. But I think that Williams has the height, has the dynamics, has the footwork, and has all of the passing prowess that you're looking for. Also, another thing that shows up on his tape, which is a big thing, is that playmaker ability. It's these days, it's not just, you've got a quarterback who, like Patrick Mahomes, for instance, it's like, he's a fantastic passer. He can throw a deep ball. He can do this. He can do that. It's what do you do when the play breaks down? What do you do when protection breaks down? How can you improvise? How can you do all that? And on film, Caleb Williams has all of that, the fundamentals, the passing fundamentals, the things that he can do when he's got a clean pocket, all of that, plus then the agility, plus then the big runs, plus then when the play breaks down and he's got to throw off his back foot or he's got to throw in a strange place or whatnot. He does that. And, some of the most fun aspects of his game is watching him and watching what he does when the play breaks down, which is what obviously these days a lot of people talk about with Josh Allen, talk about Lamar Jackson, talk about with Patrick Mahomes and all that, and that's the difference. And I think that you go to someone like pick 2, obviously Jaden Daniels, and it becomes, Jaden Daniels from an actual athleticism point of view, I'd say has the edge over Caleb Williams. However, from just the pure passing and fundamentals and all that, I think that Caleb Williams has just had the edge over every other player this year.
So, okay, right, so continuing with that, obviously picked by the Bears. Do you so just put you on the spot with this one? Do you think he's got enough around? Do you think he's got enough around him to have a successful first? He's going to start, isn't he? They've got no.
Yeah. They named him starter last week, which again was the most predictable thing ever to happen.
So do you think he's got enough around him? Do you think the O-line is going to be good enough? Do you think he's got enough wide receivers? Do you think he's got enough around him to be not okay? We're not saying he's going to win a Super Bowl season 1. But do you think he's got enough around him to succeed?
I think so. I mean, the Bears were very active in the off-season. You looked at how they handled the situation with Fields last year and you thought, okay, they've given him a number one receiver in DJ Moore. And it almost felt like they went, okay, we've given you your receiver, that's it. it didn't matter about the O-line, didn't matter about anything else. They just went, we've given you that. Now we've got an excuse to trade you at the end of the season if things don't go well. But he still didn't have enough help. Had that connection with DJ Moore, but that's it. Moving to this season, obviously they got help at running back with Swift, who had a fantastic season last year. Then you look at them from a wide receiver point of view. You've got that number one receiver there in DJ Moore. They obviously brought in Keenan Allen as well, who, although he's had trouble with injuries, he's shown that when he's on the field, he's still fantastic. And then they pick, I can't remember how to say his name, it's Romeo. Let's just call him Romeo for ease, but they picked Romeo with their second pick in the first round this year to have another top wide receiver to go with him. So already, even if you take it, and my example I always go with is the whole Joe Burrow Cincinnati pick.
Sorry, where did they pick this?
Romeo was. I'm going to have to consult the Google machine just to double check this. Romeo. It's not Romeo. Romo.
Rome. It's Rome.
I feel like Rome.
Yeah, it's Rome. Rome Odunze.
Rome Odunze. Okay, there you go. Hold on. Chicago Bears. Let's pull this up. You can tell we're out of practice, or at least I'm out of practice.
Yeah, we are.
I got a good
ninth pick.
Rome Odunze, ninth pick. So you get another. When people look at who's going to get chosen in the first round, what type of players are going to get chosen? You got your quarterbacks going early, your top receivers going early, your tackles, your pass rushers. They're the kind of the big ones that come off the board and what people want each year. As you can tell, with obviously the first 3 picks being quarterbacks, and there being 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. So when you look at it from the Bears' point of view, you get the top quarterback and then one of the top receivers. So suddenly you've got, there was a quote from, I can't remember who it was the other day, but it was one of the players who said, it's basically just a race to who can get to 1,000 yards first. And then you look at the Bears the last few seasons, they had DJ Moore last season and all that, but it's not exactly been incredibly fruitful. And so they're just, I think around him, he's just got, a lot better. You've got Dana Wright and Braxton Jones going into, later seasons now. So, you've got your tackles there, you've got things in place, you've got Swift, you've got all of that kind of supporting cast that Fields never really had and was never really set up for success. They've obviously got rid of, offensive coordinator who has now gone to the Raiders. Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Okay, right. So before we move on from Caleb Williams then, put you on the spot, what's their season going to be? Give us a prediction.
I'm going to say it's going to be I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll show a lot of improvement. And I'm going to say, you want an actual record?
I want numbers. I want someone to hold you to.
Okay, 8 and 9, 8 wins, 9 losses. Print it. Stick that in your jersey.
Right. Laminate it.
And shove it up my ass. Let's go.
Let's not do that.
No, we did that once before. We tried different podcast ideas, and that one never stuck.
But laminate, roll it, and shove it up our ass never really went down well with the when we did the testing.
The screen test with people. I know, but it's a good name for this podcast. That's the one that grabs the headlines.
The screen test.
The screen test, yeah.
So 8 and 9, Caleb Williams. Okay, and let's say obviously Stroud had a very good season. Mm-hmm. You think he's going to do better or worse than Bryce Young? Well, you'd have to say better.
I think Bryce Young was put into an incredibly bad situation with not really any support around him. He just threw the ball to Adam Thielen 14 times a game, and that's all he could kind of do. They traded away. An Asian Adam Thielen. Aging. Oh, I see. But they didn't really have any supporting cast there. CJ Stroud at least went into a team that had pieces. Not necessarily, they had one of the highest paid, or if not the highest paid tackles in the league. Like, it didn't go into the most awful situation. No. And also from a pressure point of view, there was a lot more pressure on Bryce Young. I think CJ Stroud was, Stroud had gone first. Obviously, if you go first, that's it. But the pressure on Bryce Young from the start was, very hefty. And so, I think that the issue again becomes the pressure that is on Caleb Williams. So far, in terms of how he's spoken after the draft to media and all that kind of stuff, he seems very chill and seems in a good place and all that. It just how that translates to the season. When he scrambles out of the pocket for the first time, gets hit by a 300-pound defensive end, like that's when you suddenly start to see the character, and that's when you suddenly start to see what happens with a player. So yeah, 8 and 9, I reckon. But let's move on to pick 2, and let's talk about. So Jaden Daniels went to Washington. So I think Sam Howell last year showed. He led the league in interceptions. He had some horrible plays, but I think the play calling wasn't exactly fantastic from Eric Bieniemy, who was meant to be this offensive guru after he left Kansas City, but evidently wasn't. And there were pieces there, but again, just wasn't put in the place. He was getting sacked all over the show and never really put there. So you could look at it and go, well, actually, if they'd have just, drafted back, got a couple more receivers, if they'd have, looked to get in the O-line and improving that, they could have committed to Al. But I think that...
Well, Hal was kind of benched at the end, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
His season was going pretty well until I picked him up in the fantasy.
As usual.
And then it completely fell apart. So I take the blame. I do apologise directly to Hal. But yeah. I mean, there's a slight air of positivity, I think, around the Commanders in this choice. Don't you think?
I think so. I think I always describe things as not sexy or sexy picks. I think at the end of the day, picking a quarterback with the second pick in the draft is a sexy pick. Yeah. Rocking with a fourth round, I think that Sam Howell was a fourth rounder, a fourth round fringe kind of pick. At the end of the day, is not as sexy for a team. For a head office, for a team looking at it, they look at it and go, okay, Jaden Daniels, second best prospect in this year's draft. We get our quarterback of the future. We get the agility. We get everything. We get a very pro-ready player. That is something to look forward to. That's something the players around him look forward to. Brian Robinson, Terry McLaurin and all that. They look at that and go, hold on a minute, this is someone I can get behind.
Yeah,
they've
got some wide receivers there.
Yeah, they've got McLaurin, haven't they? They drafted, I can't remember his name, but a couple of years ago, that the first round receiver who he had those 2 touchdowns in his first game from Carson Wentz, and everyone looked at it and was like, "Oh shit, Carson Wentz is back." And then obviously 3 weeks later he was injured and shit hit the fan again. But yeah, they've got some guys there. I think that there's enough. There's still the troubles at O-line, which the Commanders have had for quite a few seasons now. That's not going to change by getting a top quarterback, and you could argue that maybe Jaden Daniels goes into the worst situation out of the 2 of kind of those quarterbacks. So it's interesting to see kind of how he handles that, because again, it's the getting hit a million times. Someone like Joe Burrow was able to do that and come back and play incredibly well. The Commanders might have some good pieces there, but that doesn't mean that they've got 3 top wide receivers and a top running back the Bengals had in that Super Bowl season in Joe Burrow's sophomore season. So I'm interested. I'm intrigued by Daniels.
Well, aren't we all? I mean, we're in the intriguing season of the NFL where everything is intriguing.
We are, and it's only during a week in May. Other than that, there's nothing really intriguing that happens.
Nothing intriguing that happens.
Nothing, absolutely not in the world. But that brings
unless you're Drake May.
Unless you're Drake May. Which is true. Which coincidentally, would you know that he was the 3rd pick in the draft?
Unbelievable.
But beginning, we saw the end of the Tom Brady era. We saw the fruitless Mac Jones era. We saw the Bailey Zappi hype for 1 minute, and now, Belichick's gone. We see the Drake May era.
Would it be fair to say that Mac Jones, there had to be the guy after Brady that wasn't going to do it. You know what I mean? It just felt like there's always after a dynasty, an era, there has to be someone that comes along, and he's just not the guy. So it's like they're a buffer. Now, obviously, unless you're Green Bay, where you just roll from one to another. It's like there has to be that kind of a buffer. Maybe not necessarily. I mean, clearly Dak Prescott took over from Romo and is an absolute legend, destined to win us a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's so far, just to speak to Dak's success, he's won as many Super Bowls as Tony Romo. So
You fuck. I'm taking the shirt off. But
oh,
yeah,
no.
so Drake, mate. I will obviously confess to not knowing a ton about Drake, mate. Hit me. Why 3? Why did they pick him 3 at 6? So 6 quarterbacks picked in the first 12. Yeah. Why did they pick Drake May?
Well, I think that May was that next kind of incredibly natural passer in the draft this year. I think things pretty much went for the first few picks. Like I didn't stay up. I watched it the day after, and the first kind of like eight. I know. The first 8-9 picks, I was like, this is kind of pointless because this is sort of how I thought things would go here. And I think May was the next kind of incredible passer. Not quite the same level of agility as the first two guys. Not quite that same level of, can get out of the pocket and make those kind of incredible plays. But just as an actual passer, has the accuracy, has the fundamentals that are there. And so I think that was just kind of the thing in the end. At the end of the day, when you look at, even from a few years back, Trayvon Walker versus Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker went first, not necessarily the better player, but has the athletic fundamentals. In a draft this year, you go, okay, well, Jaden Daniels versus Drake May. If you're finding the finite things between them or find who you want your quarterback of the future, you're going to go, okay, well, let's pick the guy who, from an athletic point of view, has that advantage. And so I think that the Patriots here got the best of the rest of the kind of quarterbacks.
So who would you compare Drake May to as a current NFL quarterback, style wise?
That's interesting. Mac Jones? I'm probably Mac Jones. Yeah.
Mac Jones.
Yeah. Imagine they just cycle through. That is a good point. Maybe a Baker Mayfield, a more accurate Baker Mayfield, I think.
Okay.
I think that
we'll see, because obviously stepping up to pro level NFL from college is different. So will he be as accurate when the pressure's on? Like you say, when the 300-pound guy is about to crush you, how's your accuracy, son?
When you've got a 300-pound emotion racing down at you.
Angry.
That's a peep show quote for anyone. If any of our 2.5 listeners have watched Peep Show,
hi mum.
They're so supportive, bless them. I think Mayfield is kind of the guy that kind of immediately springs to mind. Like you look at the first two, I think the reason why Caleb went first is because when you look at his game, you go, okay, during college he's doing things that Mahomes is doing at the next level. That's why he went number 1 overall. You look at Jaden Daniels, you go, he's got that athleticism that Lamar Jackson has, but actually has more accuracy as a passer and is probably a better passer. And so there's those comparisons, and I think that for May, it's that, at the end of the day, as a prospect, Mayfield was the first pick in the draft. You're not in bad company there. He took the Bucs to the playoffs last year, won a playoff game, nearly made it to the NFC Championship, and kind of settled in well with the Bucs. And like you look at May and go, okay, well, as an actual prospect, that's who he reminds me of. But he just has that edge with the kind of accuracy.
I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of Baker Mayfield, and I love his. I love his energy when they get a touchdown. He'll race down the field. He's that guy. I like it.
Yeah. So, exactly.
So before we move on from the top 3 quarterbacks, I'm guessing that you would rate them in the order they were picked.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. I think, to be honest, there was times when I thought that Daniels might actually go number 1. Maybe I was buying into the media fodder that was going around.
Yeah.
Like, it was that kind of like, always when you get to that section, which is why I found it so strange when Stroud went second last year, is it's like, okay, at the end of the day, you can work on those passing mechanics. You can't change how someone deals with pressure in terms of if they're being, pass rushed or whatnot. However, you can help with passing fundamentals. You look at Josh Allen when he came into the league, his historic change from his passes completed percentage and all that.
Throwing left arm to right arm. It's insane.
Yeah, his historic change from a wolf into a man when he entered the league. It was incredible.
Like, drafted in the 7th round as a kicker.
Yeah, it was unreal from Zimbabwe, and he just sort of somehow managed to become Josh Allen. But no, I think that I can't remember what your question was because we're on such a tangent.
Would you put those three in the order?
Yeah. The reason I just thought Daniels had, because of that athletic edge, I think sometimes that can be the difference for players. I think that there's a lot of GMs that when they're coming to picking quarterbacks seem to be picking a lot more sensibly the last few years, which I think why there's less surprises. I think it's kind of almost as they are on the board is how they're kind of falling and how the chips are falling. But yeah, no, I'd say from a top 3 perspective, I think it was kind of bang on. And then from a pick 4 perspective, I'd say that's also bang on. So obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. went to the Cardinals, first wide receiver taken off the board, first non-quarterback taken off the board. I liked it. I think that realistically, he was the top prospect in this draft from a receiver point of view by far. It was the last couple of years, I'd say, like wide receivers have been quite deep in the draft, and I think that
Does it sound ridiculous that Marvin Harrison Jr. sounds like a top quality wide receiver? It's just the name. To me, that guy is going to be a good wide receiver.
Because there's two things. Because there's one thing which is just it's a good name. Like it worked from a name point of view, and there's the other thing of
which matters. Matters way more than route running.
It does. If I'm playing Madden, the way I go by is I pick a player first on speed, second is name, third is overall. Yeah.
No name, just name. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a name.
Having been a Raiders fan for so many years, where we just value speed over basically anything else, I just have to go with that.
Maybe Raiders should actually try that, seeing as nothing else is working lately. Maybe let's just go for names, or how about this? They just toss a coin.
It would probably do less damage, in fairness. If we look at
you've heard that story, haven't you?
What's that? The tossing a coin on who we picked? Yeah.
Yeah,
was that confirmed in the end? I just kind of left it alone.
It was confirmed by the guy they didn't pick, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did some interviews and stuff. So for this, basically, the Raiders in the later rounds decided to apparently pick one of the players by a flip of a coin, which is what we're referencing. Which again would do less damage. I mean, we looked at the Chicago Bears season last year and went, you know what? That offensive coordinator that couldn't do anything for them, he's the guy we want to hire as our guy. That's it, Luke Getsy. That's our guy.
We're talking the first 5 draft picks. Don't go onto your Raiders woe already. We'll save that for another day.
Well, you've put on the Cowboys apparel as a sort of self-confidence boost for episode 2 when we spend 2 hours talking about how terrible both teams are. With his Elliott jersey. Elliott, the thick boy.
He's back.
Runs a 7.2 40-yard dash these days.
Shut up.
Yeah, still faster than me and Gav.
That's me. That's me running the
Yeah.
So Marvin Harrison Jr. What are we expecting? Kyler Murray's going to be happy, isn't he?
Yeah.
What are we expecting from him then?
A lot. I think, at the end of the day, like you were saying about his name, you've got the fact that the name is good, but also, his dad did absolute incredible things in the league when his dad was in the league. So there's that association there anyway from both points of view. I think that he can kind of do it all. And I think that, when you look at the top wideout that, Murray's has had. He had DeAndre Hopkins, but kind of an aging DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, Marquise Brown, he ended up getting, but then because of the injury, never really did much with him, and now Marquise Brown's with the Chiefs. There's kind of been a lot of flip-flopping without that kind of that building. I think that the Cardinals were this team that went into last year with no real expectations, and then I think after they beat the Eagles, which, wasn't exactly the biggest feat to do in the end, but they still beat a good team and showed that there was some improvements. They've got James Conner. They've got some stuff going on there. And I think that, when you look at it from a quarterback point of view, it's what could you do to help your quarterback? okay, James Conner's there. We've got the running back. We've got the run game. The run game was doing incredibly for them towards the end of the season. Yeah, okay, we've got that run game. Who has he got to throw to? They've got the tight end, McBride, isn't it? Who is starting to look like a real number one tight end and, started to kind of really improve as the season went on, which was good for me because I picked him as a dynasty fantasy pick the year before. But he started to do really good things. And then you look at that and add Marvin Harrison to the mix. Okay, it's another piece to the puzzle. It's another, okay, he gets a top wideout. He gets, not necessarily his best friend or the best guy that he wants to throw to from college in Marquise Brown. He gets the guy that, the top prospect who we can build that relationship with a new coach, and all that.
It's a big season for Kyler Murray as well, isn't it? Come back from the injury. So he needed this. This was really important for them to get a wide receivers. So I can't, you can't help but love the way Kyler Murray plays, can you? So it'll be really, for a Cardinals fan, it's an exciting prospect to see their link up. And again, if Kyler Murray can stay fit.
Yeah, and I think, the way the Cardinals handled things the year before in terms of the trade back, they got that top tackle, got more draft capital, they did all that. I think that, from a GM point of view, you go, okay, I've got some trust here. I've got some trust in what they're building. I know that, it's not been the greatest ever since they made the playoffs a few years ago and sort of floundered. There's not really been a lot to be excited about. And then, again, we talk about sexy picks. You go top wide receiver off the board. Fans have suddenly got somebody to get behind. Your new head coach has got somebody to get behind.
Sell some shirts.
You can see, he can sell some jerseys. Yeah. Maybe we'll get you a Marvin Harrison Jr. jersey rather than a Ezekiel Elliott jersey.
Or a Joe Alt jersey.
Or a Joe Alt jersey. You're full of the transitions today. You are very good with the transitions today. Transition Gav, we call him. Transition Gav. Joe Alt. So, let's talk about this.
See, that isn't a sexy pick, is it? I'm straight up. So I'm your kind of your numbers. You study this game. I mean, I've watched American football longer than you, but you know a lot more about the game than I do. I'm your kind of your more casual fan who's depressingly loved the Cowboys since around the early 90s. Weird that I picked them in the early 90s. But when I see an offensive tackle, it's just not sexy. Now, I've learned to appreciate that side of the game more. Without a good offensive line, your offense is kind of fucked. So I've learned to appreciate it. But it still isn't a sexy pick, is it? But, however, is it a good pick?
Well, are you telling me that 6'9", 318 pounds isn't sexy? That isn't everything you want in a man.
That's one of my exes.
Yeah. You're like, oh, Joe, I wonder what she's up to these days.
What's Joe up to?
So what's her up to?
6'9", 300 pounds.
300 pounds. Oh.
She loved the lobster and she loved surf and turf. No, I can't.
She was a big surf and turf girl.
Anyway, let's get back to Joe Alt. So it's I mean, obviously the Chargers already have the quarterback, so they're secure there. New head coach
Harbour, the other Harbour brother, Harbour.
Exactly. So they've got
Jim.
So it is a sexy pick, isn't it? Really.
I think it's a sexy pick for a Chargers fan because they go. At the end of the day, from a receipt, the issue with the Chargers is who does Justin Herbert throw to?
That's it.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the trouble. Like if we look at I've just pulled up the depth chart. So DJ Chark, they obviously signed, who from he was Panthers before. He's been that kind of free agent that's just sort of signed with teams, come and done some bits, had some injuries and all that. So still a solid player. I think the exciting, it's interesting to see what happened to Quentin Johnston in this year. He really didn't live up to any kind of first round pick shenanigans last year. He just wasn't that good at all. And then they obviously got the one of those top receivers in Lad McConkey, guy who was played for Georgia. who I think is kind of an exciting prospect. I think he's got that kind of, slot kind of Edelman type thing, and that isn't because he's a 6 foot white dude. It's just because he kind of has that kind of process to him. So when you look at it, it really depends on, can Quentin Johnston make that jump? If he can make that jump, what can Led McConkey do? Can he become that top guy, the slot guy, whatnot? And then at the end of the day, I feel like, and the way Jim Harbaugh looked at it is he basically said that from a, at the end of the day, offensive linemen kind of are weapons, because if you can block, if you can do all this, if you can do all that, you can do whatever you want. So it's like if suddenly Justin Herbert has, it's an arbitrary number, but 5 seconds in the pocket to throw every time, any receiver who's in the NFL is going to get open at that period.
So I mean, almost like for someone who maybe isn't as technically minded when it comes to NFL as others, it's almost like if you've got that Justin Herbert top quality quarterback, it's almost like a power up, isn't it? It's like Mario with the Star of Invincibility.
Woohoo!
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of like or the mushroom. You make him massive. It is that's what a good offensive alignment, an offensive tackle can do, isn't it? You're powering up your quarterback.
Well, yeah, and if you look at it from a lineman point of view, what has been the big thing for the Eagles and their running game? Why they've been so good for the last few seasons? Who has become one of the 2 most popular players in the league? Jason Kelce, center. They look at the team of Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, all that. The Eagles O-line has been one of the reasons they've been so good for so many years.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Nick Foles was able to be put in a position. Nick Foles, if he had a bad O-line, wasn't going to start running around and making plays off his back foot and all that. Unless he had his visor on, in which case I trust him to do whatever.
I reckon the Cowboys, like peak Cowboys with Zeke and Dak, they were one of the teams that would manage to have a very good offensive line and still not win it.
That's the thing. It is, and it's like that's the problem when you get all the pieces. Like at the end of the day, you look at what good quarterbacks can do. Look at Mahomes last year. Obviously, Mahomes had Kelce to throw to, but Kelce's now an aging tight end. He's coming into, I think he's going to be 34 this year. He's not exactly.
He's got a big contract though, isn't he?
Yeah, he got a 2-year extension. But still, you've still got an aging tight end there. Last year, that was still the top guy for Mahomes to throw to.
Yeah.
And it's like, what did Mahomes do? He elevated the players.
Yeah.
You look at what Justin Herbert can do when players, when Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have been out, he's elevated the players around him. That's what the good quarterbacks do. So from this point of view, you're going, okay, what do? We protect our guy, we protect Herbert, we stop him from getting injured, and we trust him to do what he needs to do with that. We get Gav's ex, Joe Alt, 6'9", 320 pounds. I'm sure Herbert was sitting there half chubbed when he saw that pick. Just like, that's what I want. Half chubbed, yeah.
Wow, I haven't heard that one in a while.
There you go.
Me, when I was on a date with Joe.
There you go, exactly. We've come full circle. But I think in terms of filling a need, at the end of the day, you can try. When it comes to an O-lineman, a lot of O-linemen in their first year, it's getting used to the pace of the game, getting used to that next level. When in their first year, they aren't, quite at the same level as they do when they kind of go forward. They don't live up to that potential immediately. But I think in this situation, it's putting in the pieces. You can't change a franchise overnight. At the end of the day, the Chargers had all that talent and didn't do anything with it. So you can't just sit there and go, oh, well, they need to do this and recoup this. It's like, yeah, but, Khalil Mack's in his 30s. Keenan Allen's in his 30s. Mike Williams had trouble with injuries. Austin Eckler had trouble with injuries. You've got a lot of very, very good players, but as an actual team, can they get it done? They haven't been able to. So you may as well look at it from a fundamental point of view. Look at it from a coach who has made a Super Bowl and go, well, what do I do? Let me do this. Let me pick up a top lineman for my guy to protect my quarterback and do that.
Beautiful.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. Well, I think that's a top 5 of the draft that we've chatted about. I don't know when we'll probably chat next week, I reckon, about the schedule release, because the schedule release is coming up. I'm not going to say specifically what time, because I don't know if I'll post this today or tomorrow. And then
we're not going to talk about the Giants not drafting a quarterback. at 6.
Yeah.
Joe. We can talk about them another day. I love Joe. I love talking about the Giants. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that does make you feel better, I'm guessing.
It does.
Yeah, no, I think we can chat about, because the next big thing to come out is the schedule release, and I think after the schedule release we can talk about those matchups and talk about, okay, you get Giants are playing whoever, like, how does that match up? What does that matchup do for the Giants? What does it do for Daniel Jones? How does it affect their O-line? What does happens when they've got a solid receiver there? And we could talk about all that. So I think, I think we've hit a solid point to finish it off, talking about Gavin's escapades with Joe Alt frolicking around. And yeah, it's been weird enough doing this episode with the video.
Can we call this episode Joe Alt Delete?
Joe Alt Delete. Yeah, I'm sold. Even it's not as good as the one that we had earlier. What was it? Shoving a laminated thing up my ass to start the episode.
We'll probably skip over that one.
Okay, fair enough. I trust you with that. But yeah. Thanks for coming back and joining us for another episode. This is the start of season 4.
Sorry, it's weird looking at our faces.
Yeah, sorry you have to actually look at us whilst we kind of robotically figure out what the fuck is going on here. I think
looking at that is weird.
I look here and I'm like, I have to pretend this is... you know what I need to do? You know what we need to do for next episode?
Picture of each other.
Yeah, picture of each other, cut some eye holes, wrap it round it, and then look you dead in the eye the whole time.
Like you haven't already got a framed picture of me next to the bed?
No. Just it's a picture of you on one. It's a picture of you on one side and Joe on the other. So whenever I toss and turn in the night, I could just find whoever I want to look at. Yeah. That's amazing. But thanks for joining us. We'll be back again doing more video episodes, and we'll get more comfortable with this. When we first did the audio episodes, we were just like trying to figure it out, trying not to say constantly and do all that. I think for a first video episode, and considering we haven't done an episode in a few months, I think this wasn't too bad. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X not Twitter, at ClutchdownPod. There'll be clips on those channels, mainly on Instagram, to be honest, but still post stuff on the other channels, but follow us on those, and then we'll be back again next week.